Interview.
We're often asked about how do you recapture the glory or the newness of being a new IP, and I think the answer is you just can't. You know, you have to embrace the fact that you're a sequel, and what you want to do is be a good sequel. You don't want to be one of those guys that just rolls out more levels. You need to build a new city. You need to introduce a major new feature or two. You know, user-generated content or melee or whatever you think those things are.
We basically looked at everything from the first game. Tried to figure out if it applies, how it applies to the second game, took it all apart, and then put it back together again. And we tried to build a city that, you know, we call it a jungle gym for Cole, which is basically improve on all the possibilities that Cole could climb on, jump over, run across roofs. We tried to make that more interesting and much more varied. You know, going to an old type of city like New Marais, which is inspired by New Orleans in the south of the United States, made that possible because it's much more ornate. There's more elements that we could use, like the verandas, the balconies. We have pitched roofs. We have chimneys across the roofs. You know, this is much more interesting than the northeastern town that Empire City was.
We really wanted to increase the density of the environment as well, and the interactivity of the environment, the destructibility of things. And so we spent a lot of time on the things like the verandas. I think people have seen in video. Things where you really can tear the environment apart and feel like you're having an impact on the environment.
We did little things like just pushing the camera and had a little bit of shake on it when you ran. And for some reason, it was almost like a magic sauce. Somehow you just put in the right ingredients, just made the whole experience feel more satisfying, really. And so it's just those small little elements. Again, when you get hit by a rocket, now the camera kind of shakes and gets rocked back. And these are little things that you kind of think to yourself, why are we spending so much time on these tiny little bits? Why are we spending so much time on things that I, like Chris, am more about gameplay? And it's the point where once you start to have these elements start to come together, you have the right numbers in there, you modify the right elements of it, it just makes the whole experience feel more intense, more personal. You really feel like, in my opinion, you feel much more like you are playing as Cole rather than watching just a movie of Cole.
So from a visual design standpoint, the goal for Infamous was to reinvent the visuals, and that was important to us because we think that an important leap for a sequel is to have a new art set, to give you a new visual experience. And so we had done this kind of drab, you know, northeastern city, and we wanted to choose a location that had more vibrant color, more differentiated architectural areas, just more beauty in the environment, organics mixed with industrial, mixed with urban sprawl. And how do we find a place like that? And New Orleans kind of inspired us because it does have this juxtaposition of many, many different looks. So I think we really started off by saying, you know, what would it be like if we went to the southeast, and what would it be like visually? And on the technical side, at the same time, there is really just this, it's almost like a domino, falling dominoes. It's not like, oh, we decided to put in a new lighting model. You know, basically the lighting model in this game, it's a deferred lighting model, is the same as Infamous, but the number of details that go into each individual step there and getting those details correct has really made the game just spectacularly more beautiful. So, you know, you've empowered your artists with new tools, you've empowered your special effects guys with new tools, and you've incrementally improved the rendering technology, and all of that adds up to a pretty substantial jump in the visual quality of the game.
We really wanted to basically quadruple the number of characters we could show on screen at a time. So now, last game we started to have problems at about 30 characters. In this game it's 100, no problem. And what that means is that the city feels a lot more like a city. You know, it's more bustling, it's more vibrant, it's more alive. There's more going on. It also meant that people got in the way more, and so we had to work hard on having the pedestrians actually get out of your way.
Some of our best ideas, what we thought were our best ideas, they're not going to be in the game because they didn't work. And some of the things that we thought would be cool and innovative don't work out, and that's just the nature of doing creative work, I think. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and try some stuff and know that, you know, 50% of it's going to fail, and that's okay. You can't be freaked out by that. You have to embrace it and say, well, good, I'm glad we learned that didn't work.
Sometimes you have a very specific idea in the beginning, about a certain detail that you want to, get into the game, and you're able to carry it all the way through. That's rare. I could give you one example. I talked about the roofs. We have, in Empire City, we had basically flat roofs. It makes a lot of sense because if you put curved runabout, you don't really have to worry about any elevation changes. Now, you want to make that more interesting, and in your head, of course, theoretically, it's great. We just gotta, gotta give them all crazy angles and overhangs and all this stuff. So once you start the gameplay, just think about the angle of the roof, for instance, is at a certain flatness of your terrain, Cole runs. And when you think about coming into a wall, Cole climbs. Now, when you start thinking about an angle of the roof, at what angle does the ground become a wall? And then all of a sudden your gameplay changes from running to climbing, and that of course throws everything out of whack. So we had to make sure that we adhere to certain angles, don't go over that, constantly back and forth. Like you have to redo the art, you give it back to the game designers, they tweak some numbers, and and so it's true about a lot of these things.
I think across the board, I can't believe how when I walk around the studio, just how great the game looks. And it's not one person, it's so many details, and it's camera angles, and it's rendering technology, and it's art, and it's animation. I'm just really proud about the size of the jump. I think it's incredible. And the second thing I'm actually proud of is that we kept user-generated content a secret. That was something where we had a year of nervousness about that getting out, and it was just fun for us to have a good surprise at GDC.
Infamous 2 is coming out on June 7th for exclusively PlayStation 3.
Cheers, brother. Half as long.
Twice as bright.